What's up, everybody? I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com, host of the Sports Card Strategy Show. Welcome to Lefty Cards right here on the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network, discussing the latest trends, best practices, and insider tips on sports card investing. This episode is brought to you by NoOffSeason.com, the number one place to make money flipping sports cards. Get a free 30-day trial today at NoOffSeason.com. And now, everybody, it's time for Lefty Cards.
What's up? It's your boy Lefty McKee. We are back partnering with NoOffSeason.com. We're the number one place to make money flipping sports cards. We love what we do here. Me and Paul are back. We're excited. It's been a great summer, and I just want to follow up on some of our takes that we've made this summer. There's a couple of things in this episode of Lefty Cards that we wanted to address. A couple of them, a little housekeeping notes. I have shared the link with Krim, so if he pops in, we will have him in the episode. Otherwise, it'll be your boy just shooting all these from the hip when we're going to talk about basketball, football, and we're going to talk about baseball as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about the football card market. We're going to precursor into the basketball card market. And then there's a couple of baseball plays. Yes, that's right. You do not get out of Lefty Cards without talking about baseball. And so we will be talking about baseball cards here at the Lefty Card Show. For those of you guys that are watching this, this is recorded on Monday, August 12th at noon. So all of our content that is in this episode will be dated to the 12th of August at noon in 2024. So as we move forward, I just wanted to be able to have a timestamp on some of these things because some of the things that I'm referencing are within a 90-day play cycle. We've talked about that. We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson. We're going to talk about Jared Goff. We're going to talk about who is going to be the quarterback of some of these teams that are deciding, and are we going to make the right play? Some of the rookies that did well this week after our first preseason games, how those potentially could have affected card markets, and are there any players that we're interested in the positional profile? We're going to jump into the NBA just for a minute. I have two players that I think are undervalued right now because of some of the media coverage of the Olympics. And then I'm going to talk about a baseball play that we made within 90 days ago. And if you followed the recommendation, you made big money. Now, there's also a play that I'm most excited about in this episode that I'm thinking, are we going to see the next Paul Skenes? And I don't mean from a playing perspective. I mean from a card perspective. There's going to be an extensive discussion at the end of this episode why I think there could be another pitcher that is investable in the near future. All right, so let's jump into football for just a minute. I have some fun updates that we're going to make some calls earlier this summer, and they're on my radar moving forward. But let's take an update over the last few weeks. We've seen how some of the veterans are not really playing yet, and that's to be expected for sure. And so the guys that I'm very invested in, I've obviously told you guys that I'm holding a lot of Lamar Jackson and I'm holding a lot of Jared Goff. These guys are not in my sell profile yet because they just simply have not really done anything yet because it's the first preseason game. A lot of this is trimming the very back of the roster, trying to get some, if you do have quarterback questions, trying to get some of them some attention. You know, we saw some of that this week, but Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, pretty steady in what they're doing, pretty steady in their positional eligibility at their team. And so I just, we didn't expect to see much of them this week. So not a sell marker yet. You know, some of the guys are going to be selling very quickly here in the preseason. And some of the guys you're going to be waiting for maybe week 1 or 2, something like that. I also would like to point out that I really have enjoyed my PSA vault. You know, we've talked about this for a couple of weeks, and I said that I have been using the PSA vault, and I vaulted a lot of cards at the National. You guys might have seen the hat that I've worn on the past couple episodes with the PSA vault. I did get the PSA vault hat, and I did get the limited edition Michael Jordan PSA magazine as well out of 250. So I've been using the vault, and what I like about it are a couple things. I like that it is immediately listening to eBay. I have sold one card on there already, just as kind of a test card. I had a test card that I was going to send into a bulk play for interner, and I added a card on the end of his that I knew no matter what happened, no matter what the grade was, no matter what it was going to do, I literally was just submitting it so that I could submit it on PSA and just see what would happen. So the grade pop for Rajon Rondo Kentucky rookie card, one of his first cards, and it got an 8. What wasn't thinking very. It's simply just a procedural for me, but I ended up sending it in off to PSA immediately from the vault. I got it graded. It never came to my house, went straight to the vault, and then I clicked listed immediately. That ended up selling for $5.50, and I ended up getting a 50-cent return. I have not been able to find some of the breakdowns of all the percentages that they take out, but I ended up getting a 50-cent return on a $5.50 sale, or $5.50 card sale. So yes, I did lose $18 in the grading fee. I did lose $5 of transaction fees, and I got paid out a whopping 50 cents. But it's a $20 play for me to actually see how the process works, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with investing $20 to figuring out how the process moves going forward. I have quite an extensive bulk play that I'm making at PSA right now that's been in the vault, or it's been in grading for longer than it should be. And it is a bulk Caitlin Clark play, and I'm going to be selling most of those as the WNBA season comes back around right after this Olympics. And so I'm expecting those to hit the market fairly soon. But I just wanted to see how it works. And so getting a 50-cent return back from me, I don't know if it's just a strictly anything over, you're making a $5 uh, cut or anything like that. I'll definitely be doing some more research over the next week or so with that. But one thing that I think could be added to the vault for this is for our sports card plays. One of the best things that we do is we like to show off our collection. A lot of people like get stands in their office. A lot of people get, those little 3D printed things. Some people hang them up on the wall. Some people put them on shelves. The shelf behind me, or there is no shelves currently because we moved into a new house. But we wanted to be able, all of us want to be able to show some of our cards off at some point. And for my cards, I am just in them to sell them pretty much. But I want to be able to share my vaulted link. I think that would be a pretty cool feature to add to the PSA vault. If you are able to share what you have with others, I think that would be a pretty interesting. And maybe not share all of it. Maybe you wanted to share some of the stuff you have in the vault, or some you could make everything visible or something visible. I just think that would be a cool feature going forward. And of course, if this is already a feature, drop it in the comments for me how to do that, because I would love to be able to have an open transparency with our audience about what I'm vaulting, what I'm selling, what I'm holding. I think that would be a pretty cool way to be as transparent as possible, so that when we are making plays to make some of the big money that we're making, we can show that this isn't just a scam. We're not just doing this. It's not a pump and dump, all this kind of stuff. People have there's a lot of skepticism in this market around people abusing the market, or using media to vault numbers and things. And that's not what we're doing. We're trying to make really smart plays in terms of buying undervalued players and seeing their value going up. We have a whole formula for that. We have things set in place to get this across the line, and any more transparency would be pretty cool. So let's jump back to NFL preseason real quick. We did see Jalen Daniels have quite the week. It looked pretty impressive. Now, as you guys know, the Jalen Daniels, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, all these guys don't have cards out yet. But I think for me, it's cool, or maybe not cool, but it's important for me to check the pulse on the market of these players because of where their cards will eventually be. I am very interested in how Jalen Daniels plays this year. He has a lot of weapons. Just Eckler alone moving to that offense makes me excited about it. He's got a lot of receiving backs. He's got some good wide receivers. Of course, you've got Scary Terry out there and some other weapons as well. Jalen Daniels they've been looking for a long time to have some sort of competitive football in Washington. And I think Jalen Daniels could be the next guy. He's the guy I'm most excited about in this rookie class. He's actually the guy that I'm betting on winning Rookie of the Year. But speaking of guy that is the favorite of winning Rookie of the Year, let's go to Caleb Williams. He didn't look bad early. He did get more reps than most other starting quarterbacks this week, just because he's young. And this Bears offense still has to gel together. They did some good stuff. We saw that he was able to put a good drive together, and all of this is just preseason speculation. None of it really matters until pay dirt is actually happening, and we are looking forward to that happening. But it's a couple weeks from now. Another guy that's back in the saddle is Richardson with the Colts. He did have a full drive put together. I saw some of his post game interview, and he talked about the ceiling. There is no ceiling for this Colts offense. I would disagree with him, but I do think if he's able to put it all together, and then you've got Jonathan Taylor in the background, which, by the way, Jonathan Taylor wore that new bubble helmet that people are allowed to wear now, that you don't have to only wear in practice. You are allowed to wear it in the games. He wore a bubble helmet pad cover thing on his helmet, which was pretty cool to see. I'm always pro let's fight for no brain injuries. So, and then we have Bo Nix potentially being the starter. There's some news out of the Broncos camp that, well, Jared Stidham took the first team reps this week, and it looks like it's Jared Stidham. And from what all I've heard this week is that Bo Nix is now moved into second, which means that Zach is officially out of second. Good thing I sold some of his cards at the National for a little bit of profit, which was kind of crazy to me. But Jared Stidham is this number one right now, but Bo Nix looks the position to be able to get the handle going forward. And so if you're making a play on this Broncos quarterback position, Bo Nix, you'd have to have some investable cards from college, which they're out there. He has some Oregon cards and some Auburn cards, but Bo Nix is definitely, I think, the long shot, or the most secure bet on making some money back from a Broncos starter. Jared Stidham and, at this point, Zach Wilson look like they are just a flash in the pan, maybe just good media clicks. I don't think either one of these guys are the long-term options. Sean Payton was there in the draft room when he saw Bo Nix on the board and took him, even though he had two other quarterbacks on the roster. So I would imagine that this is his guy moving forward. And you can see a bit of Breeze in there. You can see a bit of that. Maybe Sean Payton sees a little bit of that, sees that guy that works hard and makes that starter. By the way, just for those of you guys that are wondering, Raiders quarterback position's pretty up in the air as well. Minshew took second team reps, looked fine, had over 100 yards and one touchdown, but he also was behind O'Connell. I am sad about that. I think that Minshew is the better quarterback, and maybe we will see that over time, but he did take second team reps this week, and maybe he has a chance to beat him out in the future. Also, any of the players, watch the injury listings these next couple of weeks. Some of the players that we're invested in, for instance, I have a Devon A-Chain card. A-Chain is a guy I really like, and I got it for a lot. I got it for cheap. I basically threw it in another deal for another quarterback card at the National. But A-Chain has, he's just a position player, so I will be moving him at pretty much as soon as the season starts, if I'm able to get some green on that. If there's no margin on it, it's a relatively low. I think it was a $30, $35 investment. So if I can get 50 to 60 out of it at the start of the season, that's fine. But if I have to wait on it, I will wait on it for him to be able to pop a long run or something. So, but make sure that we are watching the injury listings, as that could play into huge for your cards. Plus, additionally, it could play for huge for their understudies to come forward. So, let's jump into our first commercial, and then we'll head over to our NBA picks.
What's up, everyone? I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com. Why should you subscribe to NoOffSeason.com's premium membership? Do you like the content on this show? Want more? Well, a free 30-day trial membership at NoOffSeason.com gives you a Friday edition of the Sports Card Strategy Show called The Overflow Show. It's a premium podcast for members only every Friday, and you can ask an unlimited amount of questions to build your sports card investment portfolio, and I answer them for you. I put in the work, research, and do the analysis, give you the best possible answer so you can increase your chances of making money flipping sports cards. And if that's not enough reason to sign up for a free 30-day trial today, you get Sports Card School, tons of premium members-only articles, and our new formula-based sports card rankings to help you find the cards with the best ROI to make money in the hobby. Sign up today at nooffseason.com.
Thanks, Paul. Welcome back, everybody. We just have discussed some quarterbacks. The first preseason game is not really that big of a deal. I also just want to point out nobody is pressing the panic button on anything right now, unless you have had some of those big injury cards. But we like to sell. We say commonly, "Are you selling in preseason?" And as I was watching the commercial, I was thinking, it is selling. It is preseason, so are people probably want to know, are you saying sell now? I'm saying sell later in the preseason, like as the football steam continues to grow. This is just week 1. So for any of these guys that you're invested in, that you want to sell before the season starts, I would sell in maybe the week right before this the season starts. So maybe that 3rd and 4th week of preseason eligibility or preseason games, go ahead and throw your auctions out there. Get those 7-day auctions going. Maybe end right before the season starts, or maybe that Thursday night game when everybody's getting excited about football. Having some of your auctions in that Thursday night could be pretty compelling, or maybe Sunday morning, depending on what your feel and strategy is there. Okay, right before the commercial, I said we were going to jump into the NBA in our next buying opportunity. As we know, once we move out of these football cards, we're going to have this cash flow that we're going to want to move into something else. Baseball and basketball are good times to move into right after this football break, because baseball is going to hit a season-long low where it's not quite the playoffs yet, but everybody's just in what I call the year-longs, or like the summer slog, where we're just out there just playing baseball, just trying to hold on to a position. That's typically when cards get a little cheaper. I'm interested in getting into some cards at that point. Additionally, our next buying opportunity will be in the NBA. So as of the time of this recording, it is August 12th at around noon, and we will have just won the gold medal from the Summer Olympics, 2024 Summer Olympics. The gold medal team was incredible. You saw Steph and LeBron, Durant, and Booker just dominate. It was a very, very fun series to watch. It was a very fun tournament to watch because of the parity in what we saw on the court. We saw everything from Jokic. I mean, I heard a stat the other day that said that when the Dream Team won the gold, there was only 12 other NBA players outside of the Dream Team in the Olympic tournament. Let that sink in. When the Dream Team won the gold, there were only 12 NBA players on other teams. Now, I don't know the official count this year, but I know that it's higher than 12. That France team has a ton of NBA players on it. The Jokic and his team has some NBA players on it. You've got Australia with teams on it. You've got Greece with Antetokounmpo. You've got Spain's team. You've got just plenty of other teams out there that have professional athletes from the NBA in their roster. And so I think it's cool to watch that not only did all minus Canada. I totally missed that Canada team that got beat by France in the semifinals, was just not what I expected. They were my dark horse to win the whole thing. So definitely cool to see the NBA growing. Definitely cool to see the NBA becoming more international. But from a card perspective, how can we potentially get into some cards? I would be very advantageous to be looking at SGA while his Canadian team got eliminated from the playoffs. The SGA cards, any of those prisms, any of those first years in his Clipper jerseys. I like the red, white, and blue one. It's a team color. If you can't jump for the silver and things, those are a little bit down right now. Definitely going into the season, we want to be able to get into a guy like SGA because he's probably a top 5 player in the NBA next season. Two other guys that I'm high on right now because of where their price is at. Now that's the key here. Because of where their prices are at, I am interested in these two guys. So if you guys are watching with us on YouTube or on on Twitch, you can look here and see that I am pulling up 2 cards of Jason Tatum's. We are looking at Jason Tatum Prism Base and Jason Tatum Prism Silver. Now, are these only the cards that I'm interested in investing in with Tatum? No. I'm going to be looking really closely at the formula. I'm going to be looking really close at maybe some of his other cards that that are a little more obscure, but it's really easy to gauge a market cycle on market movers when you're looking at a prism and a prism silver. So if you look at this chart work, especially the silver, the right before the Olympics started, he's coming off of a championship. Several of his cards were selling in June around $976. Actually, in late May, one sold for 1,000. Use this Prism Silver, 980, 900, 980. We've got 979 and 1,000. Then he makes this Olympic squad and he has like some struggles and he doesn't play off the bench. And most recently, there was one that sold for $700. There's one more that has sold for $807, but that's still $200 difference, which is a big percentage difference than what we've seen over the last 90 days. If you look at that top 1,000 and that bottom at 700, that's a 30% difference, which is pretty insane. So we look at these cards being undervalued. I do think Jason Tatum is unfortunately a little undervalued right now. He's not one of my favorite guys in the NBA because of his clutch factor. I just don't see it. But then if you're also looking at his Prism base, it's coming in at around $107, $108 right now. In June, this card sold for many times for 150, 160, 170, 180. So the card that is now at $100, you can make an $80 play on that as well. And I would expect Jason Tatum's cards to go up here in the season. So watch for Jason Tatum cards. I think you could find some good deals. There is still some media speculation around how his mom and stuff has been saying things about his playtime, which is just childish to me, which could drive his market down even further. But if this silver goes down anymore, I'm just going to have to jump in on it. I think a $600, $700 Jason Tatum card is just too cheap when it sold for $1,000. And when you look at the last 365 days on this chart, let's see, when you click over to 365 days, there have been moments. Of course, there's one that sold for $1,000 right in the peak of the playoffs. But they also in November, one of his sold for $946. So that's still quite the big jump from a $700 card. And I'm interested if it gets down lower because that is a 365 day low, or just about the 365 day low. Okay, the next guy that I'm interested in from an NBA perspective is another guy that did not get a lot of press in this tournament. And if you're looking at the screen here, you've already seen that it is a Tyrese Halliburton Silver. We talked about this card a lot. We talked about how the Pacers last season were a big winner. I think Tyrese Halliburton could continue to get on people's good graces going forward. The last 365 days, this card has sold over $500 several times, and currently it's at $280. You could make a 50% flip on this potentially, and this Pacers team is not going anywhere. They're still going to be very good, and I like this investment a little bit more than the Tatum investment because, one, you can get 4 of these cards for the price you can get 1 Tatum card, and you can make a 50% return rather than a 30% return potentially on it. So the returns on Tyrese Halliburton could be better in the long run. He would probably have to do more for his value to go back up, and he's probably not going to be the NBA championship, but I don't think that this card sells for 280 in a couple of months, and I would be pretty excited to get my hands on another one of these cards because I got out of them in June. Let's see. In June, they were selling for about 340. I bought mine for about 280. It is now at 280 again. And I would be willing to buy back in and potentially ride that back up to a $400 price point. They did really good in the in-season tournament last year. I would look for the Pacers to also make another big run there in the in-season tournament. So that'd be a flip before the end of the year, around the December timeframe. So that would be a good time frame flip for us. So those are the two guys that I'm looking for in the NBA. Those are the two guys that I'm excited about in terms of their cards. There's more. I talked briefly about SGA. I would be interested in that as well. Any of those guys that didn't necessarily win the gold medal and they're outside of basketball is officially in its full off season right now. So we don't have summer league going on. We don't have the Olympics going on anymore. These guys will have a break for a little bit. Basketball does start soon, but not for another couple weeks. We will see all football here in the next couple of weeks. So that means it is going to be quickly time for us to move into NBA cards. And I think Halliburton, I think Tatum, I think SGA, all great plays. Of course, be checking if you're a premium member, be checking on the formula, making sure that you finding good deals there, good raw to grade deals there. I typically do grade to grade is what I've been calling it, or still graded is what Paul and I were joking about. But I think that these would be 3-month flips that you could buy graded and sell graded. Another thing that I like to talk about is and I'm just going to say this really briefly. And so I'm probably going to dive onto this in another episode. But I think a good strategy of how to make margin on your return, because the formula does calculate the eBay returns and things like that in it. But another good way to do this, and Paul and I talked about this at the National, is finding one side of the equation, whether it's buying or selling, find one of those sides of the equation that you are buying off of eBay. So whether you are buying on Facebook, or buying on Discord, or buying on Messenger or Instagram or something like this that is not taking any of the percentages, or in person, if you're buying at shows and stuff like that, and then selling on eBay, that would be one side of the equation that you are not moving percentages off of. Or if you're doing it the other way, if you're buying on eBay and then selling off of eBay, I think that's a strategy that we could potentially use to make good returns, is finding one end of the equation that is not taking the percentage return on the cards that we're trying to move. So I'll talk more about that in another episode. But we've covered football and we've covered basketball. We've covered a little bit of the NBA and a little bit of the vault. So let's go to our CGC commercial and we'll be right back.
Kendall, are these people ready to start grading their sports cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today.
All right. So we are looking at, we've looked at NFL, we've looked at the NBA, and as we come out of this CGC commercial, we're going to look at a pick that we made 90 days ago. And we look at, actually, it's less than 90 days ago. It is June 17th, 2024. It was when we made the call for this card. But when we did, we talked about it being a card that we wanted to get into because of the let me make sure that my screen is still working. Okay, it looks like it still is. Okay, so we looked at this card as a potential to get into, and I actually added it to the competition portfolio between me and Krim. But I'm really excited about where this card, the last sold, is, and I think it's right on brand with what with what we were talking about. We talked about, as I added to the screen here, we talked about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being a guy that I could see being undervalued. On the 17th, we pulled up his chart work, and the last 3 average sales were $334 for his Bowman Chrome auto, and we looked at the BGS 9.5 because of the pop count. I can't remember exactly why at the time we added it in instead of the 10. I think it probably was because of how many pop counts had sold at that point. But the BGS 9.5 as of yesterday sold for $550. And if you look at the scale from what we can look at on the so the last sold right before this was 481 as a PSA 10. The most recent PSA 10 also sold for 800. So whether it is a BGS 9.5 or a PSA 10, this card is up massively since June 17th. So the last sold right before this was at $290, and then the most recent sold was a best offer $599, and the buyer ended up paying $550 for this card. extremely good for this Vladimir Guerrero card. I thought that he was going to be a trade candidate, which apparently he was a trade candidate, and they could just never pull it together. But this guy is killing the ball. So this Toronto offense is struggling. Toronto in general is struggling. They're very bottom of the East. But Vladdy is not letting any of that hold him back. He is destroying baseballs, and I think people are seeing that. And when you look at this card being at $550 right now, I think if you guys followed us in what we were talking about in June and you got one of these, move out of it now. Move out of it right now, because the Blue Jays are not good. This franchise is going to continue to get worse. I think there will be more buying opportunities to get Vladdy Guerrero in the future. But when you can look at a less than 2-month flip from $334 to $550, and if you're looking at the PSA 10, a $400 an 100% gain on a $400 investment in less than 2 months, that is a great outcome. So don't try, if you did get on this Vladimir Guerrero Jr. play, don't try to squeeze extra out of it in the end on the back end. Make sure you're smart. Capitalize on these gains, crystallize it as we've talked about before, and get back into another card. Vladdy was never supposed to be a long-term play. He was supposed to be moved at the deadline. And for our chart work, for what we're doing here, I will move it for $550 because that's what I like. That's what we're doing for the competition that Krim and I are doing. Moving mine, I'll put it down for $550, maybe even a little bit under that. So because everyone's going to fight you down 80%. I'd be willing to come down on that. So what I'm saying is this card is for the argument's sake, this card is a huge win for me. Jackson Holliday is also the other baseball player that I added. I added a PSA 9 auto, and that is up as well. So for the competition between Krim and I, it's looking okay. Jason Dominguez seems to be coming back as well, so maybe Krim will be on the positive side of that card. But this Vladdy Jr. card just took off, and I'm very excited about it. Plus, he's crushing the ball. So if you did follow this play, get out while you can. Get out because the margin is so good right now, and you can even come down a little bit and still make really good money and move it faster. So this was a good play. I think it's a smart play on us looking forward at how we can take guys that are undervalued on bad teams and potentially see them go up. There's going to be this opportunity every year with a guy somewhere on the lower end of this on the spectrum where the team wants to keep him in their long-term plans, but they don't have a short-term winning team. And that's what we've seen with Vladdy Jr. Another guy that's absolutely hitting the cover off the ball, I will just take a moment to talk about Bobby Witt Jr. He's incredibly good. And if Aaron Judge was not having the season that he's having right now, this guy would be the MVP. And so if Judge does go down at some point, or anything happens with that, or he somehow goes into a massive slump, this is Bobby Witt Jr.'s season to win the MVP. It's sad that he's losing it to Aaron Judge, but that just speaks to how good Aaron Judge has been playing this year, which we've come to expect from him. But Judge is 32, and Bobby, I believe, is 24 or 25 years old. There's a lot more run on the Bobby Witt Jr. play. I ended up buying an auto from him earlier this year. I paid $1,000 for it, and it's already up to $1,300. I'm not looking to sell it right now. I'm looking to sell. That's probably going to be a long-term hold for me, maybe a 2-year flip when this guy is a bona fide MVP, and that card is going for $1.5 to $2,000 potentially. Okay, let's hit one more commercial and come back, and I'll talk about who's the next Paul Skenes. Are you ready for that?
Yo, Lefty, we use a lot of data, don't we? Well, I just want everyone to know that they can get the same data we get by signing up at marketmoversapp.com. Sign up at marketmoversapp.com today, but use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20% after a free 14-day trial. That's marketmoversapp.com, promo code NOOFFSEASON.
All right. No off season. Use that promo code to get Market Movers. We love it. That's what we use for all of our data. That's what you're seeing on our show today. We are using Market Movers. It's a really great app. I like it. I think it's very functional to use. But this is what we're going to talk about now. Who is the next Paul Skenes? Now, I know that that is a very clickbaity title, and I kind of mean it to be that way because this guy is electric and he has been here before, and I think he's been in hiding for a while. And some of you can probably tell already who it is, but some of you are chomping at the bits of saying, what do we do? Well, let me back up a little bit. Let me build this up a little bit. So in December of last year, I looked at Krim and I looked at Paul and I said, is there potentially a place where we're getting to an environment to where a card is investable for a pitcher? And I think at that time we were looking at, it's been a long time since we've seen any pitcher cards that have been investable. Could Paul Skenes potentially push this one to the top? We thought maybe Jack Leiter was going to be a guy that could push that to the top, and his agent never got the deal done and all this kind of stuff. And now we still don't see that in cards. And so Paul Skenes was a guy that I was saying, like, could this guy be the next big thing in terms of the sports card market? Unless you've been living under a rock, that's exactly what happened. Paul Skenes has dominated the competition. He went from being not even in the league at the very beginning of the season to being the Rookie of the Year favorite. I think I got a future on Rookie of the Years for him at plus 1,200 when he wasn't even in the league yet. So, and now he's like negative 3,000 to win it or something. And I ended up getting a future on a Cy Young as well, because like this guy's just dominant. He's just built different. Reminds me of like how there was something just built different about Ryan. Like when you looked at Nolan Ryan, he just was built different. Now I'm not comparing the two of them, but I wanted to say like the moxie on the mound, the guys that are just built like they could probably get hurt and play through an injury type guy. That's what I see in Paul Skenes. So I just see that he is like willing to go to the mound every day, even if it hurts, even if there's a little pinch, even if there's a whatever, and he's going to dominate you. He's just so competitive and so good. I think this guy could be a generational talent. Now, it's really, comparing who's the next Paul Skenes is hard. So there is a guy that I'm excited about coming forward. And I think that we all should be excited about him because of the past that he's had and potentially how he could be relevant moving forward. Because he is a guy that has a lot of the same media eligibility that Paul Skenes had. Now, he's not going to have anywhere close to the actual eligibility in terms of media than what Paul Skenes has, because this guy doesn't have a Livy Dune connected to him. He doesn't have MLB pushing him in every single media market that's out there. But there is a guy that I like because when you compare them side by side, there are some things that they have both done very well. They both have been outstanding high school players. They have both been outstanding college players. They both won an NCAA Division I college baseball World Series. They both won College World Series Most Outstanding Player. They both were drafted in the first round within the first 5 picks. They both were high-profile signings, and they both went to a team that is not like historically very good at developing talent. And so, like a lot of these guys, they're both very similar profiles and very similar players, except for one of them has an injury history and one of them doesn't. So, who am I talking about? Well, let's add to the stage here Mr. Kumar Rocker. Yes, I believe that maybe Kumar Rocker could be a nice flyer investment for us as we move forward in the sports card strategy world. I've been able to pick up a couple of his raw cards this week for about $20 to $25, which is a little bit under where they're currently at. But this card is essentially hitting. You already see some rise in this over the past couple of weeks. We see people paying all the way up to $39 for this, when in May this card was selling for under $10. So we're seeing people take attention to what he's doing. And when I say take attention to what he's doing, let me just read off some of the stuff that Aram Layton from justbaseball.com has tweeted about him. So this was the tweet that came out a couple of days ago. He said Kumar Rocker was dominant again for AA. 4 innings pitched, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 8 Ks. Fastball averaged 97.5, touched 99, 52 pitches, 33 strikes. Slider was disgusting. 11 whiffs on that pitch alone. Since returning from 2 AA from injury, he's had 11 innings pitched, 16 strikeouts, 1 walk. RM says, looks like a top pitching prospect that we all thought he would. So that is super, super encouraging. And then he's been hard on Rocker previously. This isn't a guy that's just like pumping fluff up my butt because he knows that I like the Rangers. But Kumar Rocker was a dominant pitcher in college. He was drafted twice in the first round, and because of injury history, it is what it is. Had we not had the Mets cycle, and had he just had an injury and then gotten the surgery initially, and because that surgery and that lengthy process, and because COVID, I think some of that stuff hurt some of Kumar's brand. But I think this guy is just a powder keg for potential going forward. And if there's ever been another pitcher that I would be interested in moving forward, it's this guy. And there's people that know it. There's people that see it, because when you are looking at the 365-day average, the last PSA 10, there was one that sold in May for $100. The last two sold for around $59, but there are several that are online right now for 130, 140, and people are not willing to come down on these. So I think this could be a potentially good raw to grade strategy for us going forward. Is Kumar is going to potentially get the call up later this September. So maybe that would affect our raw to grade strategy, because the Rangers are probably not going to make the playoffs at this point, and Kumar's pitching so well, they're probably going to give him an opportunity this spring or this fall to get some major league reps. But I could see this guy being a powder keg of potential. He's had all the storylines previously. The MLB loves a comeback story, and this guy, it doesn't even really have that. Like that, his PR guy needs to be fired, because this guy has just had the same surgery everyone else has had. It's just Tommy John. It's not like it's anything different. And this guy was one of the most dominant pitchers from the time he took a baseball. I remember when he was a sophomore and junior in high school, this guy was on national media attention because of how good he was at throwing the baseball. His dad was an NFL lineman, and he said he takes that same mentality to the mound. And so this guy's huge. He's dominant. He's right-handed. Him and Skenes have a lot of the same delivery, and I think Kumar Rocker could be a card that we see go bananas over the next couple of months. And if he does get held out until next spring, I could see this card going crazy. So this is a guy that I'm willing to take a shot on. It's a guy I'm willing to go on record saying Kumar Rocker could be the next card that blows up in the pitcher sphere. Now, when I say pitchers or like blow up in the pitcher sphere, this isn't like a card that is going to potentially get to the prices of Kumar Rocker, because the laws of human what am I trying to look for? The word I'm trying to look for is the Fibonacci cycle. The Fibonacci numbers are not going to just exponentially rise. We're not going to see the equivalent number to the same price, the price of Skenes, but I think we could see the same percentage return potentially. And so, we were buying into Skenes at $100, $200, $250 raw. I just bought one actually. I was going to save this for the very end of the show, but actually, I will save this for the very end of the show. Let me go to the last quick commercial, and then we'll jump into where I think Kumar is going to go and where Paul Skenes could go as well.
Lefty, we say that breaking is not necessarily a sports card strategy, but there's a lot of great things going on Whatnot other than breaking. They now have singles auctions and an improved overall experience on their platform. I want everyone to know that they can get $15 free on Whatnot by joining Whatnot through this URL. Go to whatnot.sportscardstrategy.com. That's whatnot.sportscardstrategy.com. Lefty, back to you.
So who could be the next Paul Skenes potentially? My argument is Kumar Rocker. A lot of the same intangibles, a lot of the same accolades, a lot of the same skill level, but not the same PR team. I think we could see a type of return, a percentage return that similar to Paul Skenes in over the next year. Now, hear me out. There's not going to be the no-hitter potential or anything like that. Kumar is going to have to earn that respect. But I think on the low end, Kumar could have the same potential rise. When you can get into this card for between $25 and $30 and potentially find a way to grade these, they are everywhere. They are accessible. This card was in draft. And so this card was accessible. He was a top 3 pick. He went number 3 overall to the Rangers. And so this card is out there. There are people that have pulled it, and you will be able to get this accessible. If you're looking for a raw to grade, this is a good play. But potentially, the reason why I see this as a good idea is because the percentage return is there. Now, additionally, Paul Skenes is still at an affordable price. Paul Skenes autos right now are around $570. I ended up getting one yesterday for $550 raw. I'm still looking to grade it because even if you're doing fast track grading, that's going to come back in time. You can still get over $1K for these at a PSA 10, and I think the floor could be anywhere between 1.3 and 1.5, especially if he's going for potentially MVP. If he still throws well, this could continue to go up over September. But you have $700 evaluation for a PSA 9. That's $150 profit on a $550 card. It gets here, then I pay 20 something for it to be graded. That could potentially be a $130 flip that at a PSA 9 and potentially a double if it's a PSA 10. So the raw to grade still is a good play here for Paul Skenes. Not as good as it was, but this is still what I'm looking. And the card looks really clean. It's coming back for a respected card dealer that I have worked with before. I've talked previously about how I try to buy at least one side, not on eBay. This is a guy that I've worked with before. I'm going to go ahead and give him a shout out as well. So if I do good deals with people, I like to shout them out. So MDS Sports Cards on Facebook. I've been able to do quite a few deals with him. He is a reputable seller. MDS Sports Card. I'll try to tag him in some of this stuff as well. But definitely reach out to him. Got a good raw Paul Skenes auto from him. Looking to see how it comes in and see if it's as good as I think it is. If it is, this could be a good play for us for being another double on a Paul Skenes card. Additionally, I did buy several raw and bid on several PSA 10s of Kumar Rocker this week. Definitely looking to acquire some of him, as I believe he will be a big floater over the next couple of months potentially, and especially going into the spring. All right, so that's all that we've got for the Lefty Card Show. I want to be able to get a card show out there for you guys. Looks like we missed Krim today, so give him a shout out. We love our brother Krim. Shout out to Interner. He's doing a lot of good work, got some submissions in. And then shout out to Paul as well for always being there, for always being a guy that's pushing us all to be bigger and better. So for those of you that are following Lefty Cards, I appreciate it. Continue to subscribe and follow, continue to share. And I will see you next week. Peace.
Lefty, great work on today's show. Thanks for supporting Lefty Cards, part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network. Get a free 30-day trial today at NoOffSeason.com to check out our formula-based sports card rankings to help you make money flipping sports cards. Subscribe to Lefty Cards on YouTube and follow us on socials by visiting leftycards.com.